Welcome, everyone. My name is Rivka Cohen, and I'm here with Yafi Lvova for the webinar on the unhealthy pursuit of thinness in light of Torah values. Yafi is an experienced registered dietitian nutritionist and a proud mom of twins +1. She graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's of science in nutrition and dietetics from Arizona State University in 2010, and went on to complete the Iowa State University dietetic internship. After her twins were born in 2013, she opened Baby Bloom Nutrition, which is focused on prenatal, maternal, and 0 to 3 nutrition. And we are so lucky to have her with us to talk about dieting, nutrition, and Torah. So thank you so much, Yafi.
Thank you so much for having me, Rivka. I'm excited to be here. So let's just get to it. Screen share. So as Rivka said, the unhealthy pursuit of thinness in light of Torah values. And I love this picture, and that's me with my little guys when they were first born. So brief resume, I have my bachelor's in comparative religions from ASU. I went back for the BS in nutrition from ASU as well. And I did the distance learning with Iowa State University, as Rivka mentioned. After I graduated, I was a clinical dietitian at Banner Facilities in a PRN position, which means I have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas of clinical nutrition, and that was from 2011 to 2013. I started Baby Bloom Nutrition in 2014, and the newest thing is I'm the vice president of the Alliance of Orthodox Nutrition and Body Image Professionals, which is now being announced right now for the first time, and you can find us at kosherintuitiveeating.org. And we're just furthering the idea that we as women are strong, and we can focus on comprehensive health and not worry so much about the waistline, and we can enjoy food and pursue health without obsessing about that. And some personal history that led to a lot of my professional platforms. I've been on various diets, most of us have, unhealthy body image, infertility, colic, trouble breastfeeding, food intolerances and allergies, and a serious lack of sleep, which I feel like a lot of people can relate to. So the Torah on health. Philo said the body houses our neshama, and we're all pretty familiar with that concept. And we've heard in a lot of conversations, specifically on Sniut, that we are compared to a mezuzah or the ark. But let's think about that in this way. The mezuzah and the ark are beautiful on the outside, but what's inside is infinitely more impressive and more important. And we need to think of that when we think of our health, that, yeah, we should dress nice. We should try to look nice for ourselves so that we feel valuable. But what's inside is really what's the beauty of the king is on the inside, right? So food is sustenance, but it's so much more than that. Nutrition is not just a checklist of macro and micronutrients, and you can just check them off as you go. 50 years ago, look at the history of baby formula. What we thought was healthy 50 years ago is just horrendous looking back on it. So 50 years from now, we're going to look back on what we're doing now and think, wow, we have so much more knowledge. So thinking that nutrition is just that checklist and that we have all of that information right now is really a fallacy. So food is more than that. Food is family, it's community, and it's celebrating. It's a mitzvah to eat at a simcha. So what does that tell you? The mitzvah is in that connection, and we experience that connection partially through food. In Bamidbar 13:32, we learn that food makes up our bodies physically and spiritually. As the Israelites were coming through from Mitzrayim and almost in Israel, we sent out the spies. And the spies came back saying that the land is filled with giants and that the land will eat its inhabitants alive. It sounds like a curse, but it can be understood as a blessing as well. As we eat, that food becomes part of us. You've heard we are what we eat, right? So The food becomes physically part of your cells, and in that way, it's consuming the body. And that elevates our souls. Our connection with the land helps to elevate us and the land. And that's part of our relationship with food and our relationship with our culture. It's symbiotic. A little bit of Chassidus here. In Likutei Sichos, Rabbi Nachman taught that aligning the physical and the spiritual, they complement each other. Eating and drinking is done for the sake of heaven. And this separates us from certain other cultures where they teach asceticism, where you torture the body in order to achieve higher spiritual realms. That's not how we learn in Judaism. The Mishnah Berurah states that every one of your meals is a sudas mitzvah. We use that food and elevate it. There are two different levels of activities like this. You can avoid something altogether if it's seen as a negative, or the higher level is to participate in that activity but elevate it. So when we stop avoiding food and instead use it to elevate ourselves and to elevate the food, we come to a higher spiritual level. We serve Hashem by connecting with each other. And I already mentioned, and I'll say it again, part of our connection with each other is through the act of partaking in meals together. The Lubavitcher Rebbe stated in Likutei Maharan that one should eat slowly and mindfully with great derech eretz. And mindful eating is such a great way to experience your food, to really enjoy it. And we should do that. We should enjoy our meals and not feel guilt and shame around them. Every Friday night, we read Eshes Chayil, and she is the original fierce woman. I mean, if you've ever actually read all of those words, it's super intimidating to try to really emulate her. She's an entrepreneur. She manages family and land. She invests herself with strength and makes her arms powerful. And this is really, it's such a powerful statement that we should focus on strengthening ourselves. And it does mention something about the physicality of making your arms powerful, but it doesn't say anywhere about the size of your waist. She's charitable, optimistic, strong, and dignified. Grace is elusive and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears God is to be praised. And we're praising that woman for her attributes, none of which are her dress size. Here are some more women being praised for their attributes. Rivka's kindness at the well. And bonus, she's a twin mom like me. Chana's passion and faith. The daughters of Tzalafchad stand up for themselves in a way that hadn't been seen before. Yehudit and Yael were fierce. They were just fierce. Devorah was the first female judge, and Miriam's faith and wisdom had such an impact on everything that came after her. So what is health? Hillel in Pirkei Avot is quoted as saying, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? You are your own best advocate. Your medical record reflects you and your history and your family history, your genetics, and hopefully also your psychosocial factors. All of these come into play when someone should be advising you on nutrition, because nutrition advice is medical advice and is very personal. Before dying, Reb Zusa said to his students, in the world to come, I will not be asked, why were you not more like Moses? Rather, I will be asked, why weren't you more like Zusia? Do you think Zusia was following the same diet as his neighbor? Well, hopefully he wasn't following a diet at all, really. But if you are having any kind of medical problem, you should see a credentialed and experienced professional who can counsel you, not you as a caricature or you as a stand-in for X female of this age range and this size, but you as a person with your history and your factors taken into account. Avoid taking advice from friends, family, and the media. That counts for social media as well as publications and anyone on TV giving you any nutrition advice. All of that is general information and does not take your specific needs into account. Not look at the jug, but rather what's in it. The jug could be beautiful, but what's in it? Is it empty? Is it full of wine? What's in your jug? Well, let's take this to a very literal sense. How's your mood? How's your sleep quality? Your psychosocial factors? Do you feel supported by your community and your family? Do you accept your body? How about physical signs like the strength of your hair and your nails? Are your nails cracking? Do they have a lot of white spots on them? And your skin undertone, are you pale? How's your vitamin D level, your iron, your other micronutrient levels? How's your bone density? Blood levels of concern include A1C, homocysteine, CRP, which is an indicator of inflammation, and the LDL to HDL cholesterol ratios, but not total cholesterol, and glucose. If this isn't making sense, that's okay. This is for your doctor to understand this. It's just that I'm explaining here that there are indicators of health that don't have anything to do with the number on the scale, that there are objective ways to measure your health that don't have anything to do with your dress size. But why not weight? Why isn't weight an indicator of health on its own? Weight can be affected by so many factors that are out of your control. Your age, your genetics and ethnicity, your social status, lifestyle factors that are not in your control, like sleep, for example. If you've just had a baby, you're not getting a lot of sleep, and that's out of your control. That's part of motherhood. Hormones and hormone-related health conditions, such as PCOS, thyroid conditions, medical status, and particular medications as well, really have an impact on your weight in ways that you really can't manage. You can't control that. So have you been on a diet? If I was speaking, rather than speaking to my computer right now with a little camera dot, if I was speaking to a room full of women, I would ask, have you been on a diet? Raise your hand if you've ever been on a diet. Now keep your hand up in the air if that diet worked. Okay, we lost a few people there. See, I know how this is even with you not in front of me. So keep your hand in the air if that diet worked and you kept the weight off 5 years later. Yeah, we lost a lot of people there. So if you look around, it may hit you that it's not that you failed the diet, it's that the diet failed you. Diets are set up as a restrictive eating pattern, sometimes with a set expiration date. And what happens is that it doesn't work with how humans are wired. When we put something in a restricted category, we start to fixate on it. Diets are set up for failure, especially the diets that have you buying products over and over again. They benefit when you fail. Average woman has attempted dieting 61 times by the age of 45, 61 different attempts at weight loss. Women spend an average of 17 years trying to lose weight. That's such a waste of time. Unbelievable. 80% of 10-year-old girls have been on a diet, according to a study that was confirmed by NIDA. Health compromising weight loss attempts can result in low iron and calcium, deficiencies in vitamins A, D, E, and K, growth deceleration, and amenorrhea, where your body just doesn't even have enough nutrition to menstruate. Long-term risks of osteopenia and osteoporosis, as well as heart disease. This picture is Shira Rose. She is a body positive blogger, as well as a psychotherapist focusing on eating disorder. And this is from a fantastic article she wrote about how beauty takes over the shidduch scene, and how when someone is beautiful or not conventionally beautiful, it takes over and eliminates any other aspects of their personality. So if you have the appropriate waist size, it doesn't matter that you've got a master's in counseling and a whole history and that you like rock climbing. It just comes down to what you look like. We really need to get away from that because marriage can't be based on it anyway. Social media and publications are not helping at all. We are in, it's such a huge problem right now. The problem is just getting bigger, that we think that we need to look a certain way. Nutrition columns in quotes, they have a terrible tone. The information is questionable at best. The intended audience is not necessarily who's being reached. I was talking to an editor of a particular publication, and she said, well, it's not so bad to give this advice because it's intended for women 25 to 55. Yes, but those women might have a 12-year-old daughter who picks it up and sees that someone's goal weight is 115 pounds. She internalizes that. She takes that with her. And this is not what we need for our children. So who wrote the article? Just because someone has doctor in front of their name, PhD behind their name, or calls themselves a nutritionist, it doesn't mean that's someone to be listened to. So I'm a registered dietitian. I went through what my educational background is, and registered dietitian is a protected term, which means that anyone saying they're a dietitian or a registered dietitian meets minimum credentials, minimum requirements. The word nutritionist is a very hot topic. We're trying to gain it back. We're trying to own that word by calling ourselves registered dietitians, nutritionists. But if someone calls themselves a nutritionist, they could have a PhD or a master's in nutrition, or they could have gone through a 2-week online course and printed out a certificate at the end of that. You don't know, which is why you really need to look into it. Does this person have the credentials and the education that gives them the experience to be able to counsel me for who I am and what my history and my needs are? Really look into that. Health coach is another one. You really want to just look at their background. And if someone's having trouble giving you their background, you might want to run the other way. Are religious publications any better? Unfortunately not. We would like to think that in the Jewish world, we're protecting each other by giving only solid advice. But the truth is that there's a lot of information out there that's very harmful. We have, for instance, psychologists writing a nutrition column. Well, that's great, but they should stick to psychology. Just as a dietitian, I'm not going to advise you on the best way to do a deadlift. I would leave that to a trainer. We all have our scope of practice, and we need to make sure that when consulting a professional, that they are able to stay within their scope of practice and really practice in the way that they were trained. So what's the problem? Barim 8:10 says you shall eat and be satisfied. Be satisfied. Don't stop yourself from finishing a good meal when you're still hungry. We're commanded to be satisfied. Restrictive diets keep us from social events. They're isolating. People have started bringing their own food or staying at home because they can't participate in community events because of the food being served. We're reminded that we're not good enough. So many points at our day. Every meal, you're reminded you're not good enough. I'm not allowed to have this. I can't have that. I have to save this orange for later. Every morning when you're getting ready and you walk in your closet and you see those goal clothes that you want to fit into, it tells you that you're not good enough. Every social event where you're looking around at everyone else and what they look like rather than focusing on having a good time. Every time someone tags you in a photo, you're just reminded, this isn't what I want to look like. And it takes up so much real estate in your brain. Fixation prevents connection. And we're supposed to connect as a community. We can't be a community if everyone's isolating. And I do want to note here that specific disease states do require certain nutritional management, which will be recommended by your physician. And if you have trouble with that, you can speak one-on-one with a nutrition professional. But yeah, specific disease states do require specific nutrition sometimes, and that needs to be mentioned. So does weight matter at all? Yes, weight can indicate an underlying condition. Rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss can indicate there's a problem in your body, and it does need to be checked out. But it's a symptom, not a goal. If you do change to some healthy habits, the scale may change, but it also may not. If you are, let's just say you're 50 pounds overweight by whatever definition, and you decide to start making some healthier changes, that's great. You're going to experience changes in your mood. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be able to deal with the various stresses of life in a more efficient way. The scale may or may not move. Right now, we're counting the Omer, and this is a time when we are looking at the 49 aspects of the soul in order to refine ourselves. This is a really good time to think about where you are with all of this information and where you want to be. Are you ready for a change? Balei Musar teaches the longest distance in the body is not from the head to the foot, but from the head to the heart. Self-esteem is the answer. Creative exposure to new foods, So for instance, if you're sick of steamed broccoli, try a different way, try roasting it, or try gardening, try shopping at a new farmer's market where they'll have some unconventional fruit, or the ugly vegetables. I love that, where it's kind of oddly shaped. Change it up a little bit. Try to cook something new, or use a new appliance. Buy clothing that fits, and get rid of the clothing that doesn't fit. If there's something in your closet that's really sentimental, like a wedding dress, for example, and it doesn't fit, pack it up in a pretty box and put it somewhere where you're not confronted with it every morning. Positive talk. Ditch the self-hatred, ditch the self-negative talk. It's just not helping anybody. You really want to build self-esteem, and positive talk is the way to do it. And no diet columns in the house. Have a rule that you don't have it out, because even if you enjoy reading these things, you want to keep it away from the younger members of your family who might be impressionable. True nutrition has comprehensive health in mind. It's more than that checklist that I discussed. So this picture is actually a friend of mine. When she was a little bit larger than this, and she decided to choose some healthy habits. Here she is finishing a marathon, and just look at the look on her face. She's so happy with herself. She's got such self-esteem. And that's really what the point is. The point isn't the change in clothing size. The point is the happiness, the enjoyment of life. And something I really respect about her is that when she posts about her journey, she'll post an unconventional meal, and she doesn't say anything about earning it or getting back on her diet tomorrow. She's not dieting. She chose to enjoy life. Intuitive eating is also the answer. It's the only method that takes into account actual nutrition, psychosocial factors, and creating a healthy relationship with food. So the first principle, there are 10 principles. Reject the diet mentality. Reject the idea that you need to diet. Reject the idea that your body isn't enough to tell you what you need. If you take the T off the word diet, what are you left with? Think about that for a second. The second principle is honor your hunger. We were created with these signals. You don't ignore the signal to go use the restroom. You don't ignore the signal that your body sends you when you're thirsty. So why would you ignore the signal that your body sends you to eat something? If you are hungry, you should eat something. That's your body telling you that it needs something. Make peace with food. If you are constantly battling what's on your plate in order to achieve a particular size, that's not the size you are meant to be. It shouldn't be a battle. It shouldn't be a war. Challenge the food police. Anyone who puts morals on your food, this is good, this is bad, that tells you that you're either a good or a bad person for eating that. Food is food. It doesn't need to be moralized. Respect your fullness. The same way you're honoring your hunger, if your body's full, it doesn't need any more, and you can stop. Discover the satisfaction factor. So why is satisfaction in a different category than hunger and fullness? Well, because satisfaction can apply to so many different things. You can be satisfied that you stayed within budget when cooking a meal. You can be satisfied that you used a new appliance or a new ingredient. You can be satisfied that you sat down and enjoyed a meal without getting up 5 times. Honor your feelings without using food. Sometimes you have a really difficult day and you want a scoop of ice cream. That's fine. And that's something that all of us do. But the idea is to have other tools in your toolbox when you're dealing with stress. So food is not the only way that you deal with stress. Maybe it's taking a walk or doing yoga. Maybe it's punching some pillows. As long as you have other tools in your toolbox, you're good. Respect your body. Your body was given to you as a gift, and it's actually on loan. So by insulting your body, you're insulting the creator. You're insulting the person, well, the being who made you. Exercise and feel the difference. It doesn't have to be running on a treadmill. A lot of people find that boring. I'm one of those people. Here's a picture on the right of Sarah Kupfer, who is a trainer at Fit Jewess, and she is climbing rocks. And you could also go hiking. There are so many different things you can do. I personally really appreciate Zumba, and I love doing push-ups. If you feel like you don't like exercising, it's probably because you haven't met the right exercise for you. So try a few different things. Try some unconventional things like rock climbing. See what works for you. Whatever it is, it should make you smile and you should look forward to it. And honor your health. Start seeing your health as something that's a full picture rather than just a number on the scale, because I think I've proven that is just not an effective way to measure your health. Fear not. Al Tira, we're told 8 times, fear not. And here we are, afraid of so much. We're afraid of pasta and cheese and ice cream and bread and cake. We're told, we have brachas for all of this. We're told that we're supposed to bless these, well, we're supposed to bless the act of eating these foods. And that means that these foods are okay. They're an okay part of your diet. It's okay to eat them and we don't have to be afraid. So who really owns you? If you're afraid of all of these foods, which diet is controlling your life? Fear leads to fixation. And when you fixate on something, you just can't think of anything else. Don't think about the elephant in the room. No, really, don't think about it. Okay, don't think about that pasta that you really want. If you fixate on pasta, you're not going to eat a cup of it like you would if you just gave yourself permission to eat pasta. You're going to eat a whole plate because that's you giving in. And then you feel guilt and shame from that. And you need to cover that guilt and shame with probably food. And that leads to overconsumption, which leads to more fear of that food. And if we could just ditch that whole cycle, allow yourself to have foods that you enjoy, you're going to have a reasonable amount of those foods. You're not going to feel the guilt and the shame. And you'll have a better relationship with yourself, with your body, and with your dinner. So continuing the cycle, we have so much in our vernacular that just really feeds this cycle of fear. You look great. Have you lost weight? If you have a friend you know who is actively pursuing weight loss and is happy with the results and feels good, you can say something like you look happy. I'm glad you're feeling good. You don't have to make a reference to the actual weight lost. Did you see how big he's gotten? I wonder how she lost the weight. Imagine your kids overhearing this and what kind of message that sends. I wish I had celiac too. That sounds nuts, but I have heard that numerous times. I'll fit into this dress in another few weeks. You have such a pretty face, if only. I think we've all heard that. I earned this, fill in the blank, or I'll get back on the diet tomorrow. It's just fear, and it's not doing anything good for you. Stepping on the scale often, especially in front of kids. When you step on the scale, you're going to have a reaction. You're happy, you're sad, you're frustrated, and your kids are going to pick up on that. And that really sends a very loud signal. So step 1, don't step on the scale in front of your kids. Step 2, toss the scale out the window. Okay, I'll start right after I lose these 10 pounds. Don't wait. Unhealthy choices do not lead to health. Media would have you believe that The Biggest Loser is a fantastic idea. All of these people getting healthy, they're not getting healthy. That show is damaging physically and psychologically. And for people who watch it, it sends a terrible message. Relying on external signals for fullness. There are certain people out there advocating you should finish X amount of your plate and then dump salt or dish soap on the rest of it so that you don't eat it. That is an eating disorder behavior, and it does not foster a healthy relationship with food. Wearing tight clothing specifically with the intent that it'll remind you to stop eating. We don't need external forces to tell us that we're full. Your body is enough. Changes made from a place of self-hatred will not last. If you do something, if you lose weight because you're beating yourself up and you're torturing yourself, you're hungry all the time, these are made from a place of self-hatred, and it's not going to last, and it's not going to lead to true health. Enjoy your food. Stress impacts digestion. When you're stressed out at a meal or leading up to a meal, the pH in your stomach changes. There are unusual contractions in your stomach and in your colon. And this all leads to poor digestion, and poor digestion ends in bloating and gas. So on top of you feeling fearful of the food, and then feeling the guilt and the shame from having the food, now you're bloated and gassy. So why don't we just start from the beginning, allow yourself to have the meal and enjoy it, and then you can digest it appropriately and feel good afterward and not feel the guilt and the shame. Are you having a kale salad? Enjoy it. Make it into something you like. Put some slivered almonds on top, or whatever your thing is, some feta cheese. Enjoy it. Having a slice of pizza? Enjoy that. If you're at a wedding and you have a piece of cake, enjoy the piece of cake. It's just cake. It doesn't have to represent anything more than that. Balance is important, and you can find a way. Introduce some variety into your diet. I know we're talking about not looking at the scale, and I really do push a lot of vegetables. Okay, every meal should be an opportunity to try to fit more vegetables on your plate. The current recommendations are 10 servings a day, and that's a really lofty goal. But if you try to have it in a few different ways, keep some nuts available to grab and eat, add some frozen vegetables to any meal, whatever it is, it is important to get that nutrition. It's just not important that you fixate on ice cream at the end of the day at the same time. These are mutually exclusive. They don't have to impact each other at all. Try some different cooking methods. I mentioned steamed versus roasted broccoli. When you roast vegetables, it's very easy and it brings out an amazing flavor. I have a fantastic recipe for that roasted broccoli. If you want to email me, I'll send it to anybody. But it's very easy, and it's a great way to increase your vegetable intake. And there's a quote I learned last night from Rachel Cole. What is the connection between being at war with our bellies and losing touch with our gut intuition? If you're constantly at war with your insides, they're going to be at war with you. And that signal that tells you that you're hungry or that you're full is going to get quieter and quieter and quieter. So what we need to do is sign a peace treaty with our own bodies. Stop being at war, and you'll be able to hear that signal again. Here are some practical tips, because I gave you some lofty goals, and now here's the way to actually use them. Mindful, joyful eating. Set the table. Sit down. If you're a mother of young kids like I am, you get up 5 million times each time you sit down for a meal. Make sure everything's on the table so you don't have to get up, because you should sit down and enjoy your meal. You can put on some nice music, light some candles, whatever it is, just sit and enjoy the time. Stress management. It's different for everybody. Sometimes it's music and candles, sometimes it's a bath, sometimes it's yoga or taking a walk, but try to manage your stress and put more tools in your toolbox other than that chocolate ice cream. Meal prep helps to reduce your stress and increase your mindful, joyful eating by reducing the stress on the way up to a meal. When it's 5 o'clock and you're staring at the fridge and trying to decide what you're making, that's stressful, and you're not going to enjoy it nearly as much. So if you make a plan for your week and you are able to prep some of that, it just really cuts down the amount of time thinking and preparing. Buy clothing that fits. Ditch the stuff that doesn't fit. Don't have the goal clothes. And seriously, I'm going to say this, buy new underwear, because the underwear that cuts into your hips isn't making your outfits look good anyway, and it's a constant reminder. So go buy some underwear that fits. It's really important. Connect with friends and family. Facebook does not count. You can call on the phone, but it's really best to have time one-on-one in person. Staring at a screen does not help you foster connections. And be present. I think that multitasking is kind of an epidemic at this point. We're trying to do 5 different things at once, and it's very difficult. So pick a few times each day where just for a few minutes, you don't think about your to-do list. You just focus on whatever you're doing. If you're blowing bubbles with your kids or doing cartwheels in the park, with your friends, whatever it is, just focus on that and be present in that moment. So what now? Here is your last weight loss plan. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you're worth it. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting for that last 10, 15, 20 pounds to disappear. Stop waiting for the right time and the right diet to come around. Stop waiting. Weight loss. So I will open the floor for questions, and I know we're going to do an interview, and I'll just show you this last slide with all of my contact info. Okay, and I'll do the stop share.
Wow. Thank you so much, Yafi. That was incredibly comprehensive. Thank you so much for that presentation and all of that information. It was really, really inspiring and empowering. So thank you so much.
That was the idea.
Well, I think you achieved it, and I hope that other viewers thought so too. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, whether you're watching on Zoom or on Facebook, anyone who's watching live, please send in any questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna take a bunch of steps back and ask you to, if you can speak a little more on how you decided to go into this profession. I know that you focus on very young children and I think also pregnant women. So how did you get into that?
You know, it's really funny. When I went back to school for nutrition, I thought I was going to work. I thought I was going to work with cancer patients. I had all these different ideas. And as I finished my degree and started doing clinical work, I just experienced a lot of different areas. And my one thing that I always said was, I'm never going to work with kids. And of course, here I am because, you know, best laid plans. But what happened is that throughout my degree, I was trying to get pregnant and it wasn't happening. It took 4 years and some fairly light medical intervention to have my twins. And so in the meantime, I just kept saying, okay, well, I guess I'll graduate. Okay, well, next step, I guess I'll do the internship, which is extremely competitive. And I'm very thankful I was accepted into a program. And then I started working. And when I finally got pregnant and I found out that I was pregnant with twins, my first thing was I ran to GNC or something, got all these protein powders and like, oh, the sheer amount of nutrition you need for a multiple gestation pregnancy. So that impacted me there, just nutrition management of a multiple gestation pregnancy. And then after I had them, I was having trouble breastfeeding and there was colic and a belly button hernia and food sensitivities. And so all of that really shaped my own experience. And I want to help people with those areas. And then, of course, you get into feeding your kids food and what's the best way and what should you do first. And there's so many different ideas. So just as I've gone through motherhood, I've just experienced so many bumps that I have to use it for good, right?
Right. That's incredible. Thank you for choosing to do this. Thank you for the this might be vague, but I'm wondering if you have any top tips for, you know, how to figure out what foods to give your young kids and what order and how long you wait before introducing different things.
Yeah, well, people overthink it. I mean, you might think it's a vague question, but the truth is that it's only vague because people put so much thought into it. And people really do get obsessive about it as well. So the thing is, you want to introduce food when the child is developmentally appropriate for food introduction. And that generally happens around 6 months. If you're dealing with premature birth, it's going to be changed based on when they were born and what their developmental stage is. But you want to look for the readiness signs, which basically boil down to they can sit up on their own and physically grab food, bring it to their mouth and push it to the back of their mouth and swallow. When they get to that point, I'm a big advocate of baby-led weaning. What you are eating is what you're giving the baby, with a few modifications. I mean, you don't give a baby milk to drink until they're 12 months, and you want to cut some of the salt because their kidneys can't handle a lot of salt when they're at that age. But it's really the best idea to just introduce a variety of foods, and people really skimp on the spices too. You should go for seasonings, add some cinnamon to your kids' food. Why not? There's no reason to keep it bland. There's no reason to give baby cereal when you could just give them a piece of steak. And there are safe ways to do that. And that's a whole other topic. But there are safety issues with it and considerations. But yeah, baby-led weaning all the way.
And similar question, but a different trajectory. What can parents, mothers, and fathers do to help instill positive, healthy, and nutritious values in their children?
Well, the best thing is to lead by example. You know, I was toying with the idea of putting a quote by the philosopher Huey Lewis, "It's all right to have a good time," right? I don't think that was Talmud though. So if you enjoy your meals, if you're able to sit down and have a mindful experience like I described, your kids are going to pick up on that and they're going to enjoy food as well. And they'll be more likely to try new things if they see that other people at the table are eating them, and they'll see how they're eating them. You know, you eat different foods in different ways. Some are more at the front, a lot of foods are in the back of the mouth. And so by modeling that physical behavior, your kids are going to pick up on that and they'll try new things. I also teach a kids cooking class for anyone in the Phoenix area. I teach a cooking class for kids 2 to 6 years old. You can get your kids in the kitchen that early with age-appropriate tools, with age-appropriate actions. And that's also a way to get them really interested because they helped make it.
Great. You touched upon this before. We recently saw a video that's been going around, going viral, about somebody who claims to be a nutritionist. She's talking about
I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about.
She was talking about, the clip was short. It was talking about wearing a sheitel and not looking frumpy, and also wearing a belt on Shabbat while you're eating to make sure that you're not eating too much. What do you think of all of that?
I have a lot of thoughts. So first, the beginning of that video, there's some validity to feeling pretty. There's also some validity to feeling comfortable. So for instance, I don't wear sheitels. I just, it's not my thing. I'm a tichel person all the way. And, you know, anyone has some fun rap ideas, I'm kind of bored with mine. But so I think that I understand where she was going with that you should feel pretty, because you're not going to treat yourself well if you don't feel like you're worth it. If you feel like you're schlumpy all the time, you're not going to really have an impetus to eat nicely or to treat yourself well. You do have to respect yourself. But using that as a tool for weight loss is not something that's not taking that to a healthy place. And using a belt to remind you to not eat so much is a surefire way to lead you towards a binge later. Because the truth is that you're not full. It's the belt telling you that you're full. So when you take the belt off, you're going to need to eat something before you go to sleep. And it's just not healthy in a psychological way. We were given our bodies as a gift, and our bodies are amazing. Think of all the things your body can do. We don't need to micromanage our bodies when it comes to such basic instincts as when to eat and when to stop. We don't need to micromanage it. Our bodies can take care of that.
Do you think that there are other body standards and weight loss pressures that are specific to the Orthodox community or more emphasized in it?
I think that there's a whole thing to say about the whole shidduch scene, about how boys are not necessarily, well, young men are not necessarily choosing the women they're going to date. Before it gets to them, it's the shadchan involved, it's the community involved, it's the mother involved. And often it's the mother of the groom or the groom-to-be who comes up with this idea for the kind of daughter-in-law she wants. And if she wants her daughter-in-law to have a particular bust size or have a particular waist size, her son, who is actually going to be the one marrying this woman, he's not involved at that point. So we really need to address not only the girls who are experiencing this crazy dieting and the fear and the guilt and the shame, but we need to talk to the mothers of these guys. You know, studies have shown that men prefer something to grab, and you know, and some men do and some men don't, but it's individual taste. And when we reduce it to body size, we ignore all of the other attributes, and then it's someone choosing a body size that their son might like, and maybe they haven't even had that conversation. I feel like I'm spinning in circles. There's just too much to say about it.
Doing fine, thank you. Sorry. So how do you think someone should respond, either in the shidduch dating world or elsewhere? How do you think people should respond to body shaming comments?
I think you can't control what other people say, but you can control removing yourself from that conversation. And people don't like to be lectured. So if someone comes up to me and says something like, oh, so-and-so lost a bunch of weight on this diet, I'm not going to make a comment about it. I'm just not going to engage in that conversation. I'll say something like, she looks happy, or I hope she feels okay. You can shut down conversations like that because you're not going to save the world by yourself. You have to just control what you say. And I think that's the best way.
Great, thanks. So are all are all diets bad? What do you say if someone, I mean, I guess you deal with children, but
yeah.
What would you do if someone comes to you and says, my doctor says I need to lose weight, I need to go on a diet? Okay,
first, a lot of doctors mean well when they give this advice, but using weight as the metric of success is really misguided. Yeah, there's research out there that says if you lose X amount of pounds, then your blood pressure will go down. But we don't really know if it's strictly the weight loss or the habit changes that are associated with the weight loss that cause that beneficial medical change. So the truth is that I went through all the factors on why your scale might not move, and those are valid. And so for the doctor to put a weight on it is really a problem. The one thing that I will the caveat to that is I have worked in transplant, and sometimes for a transplant or other major surgery, the doctor will advise a specific BMI because that shows a better outcome for the patient. And that's the only instance where I believe it's okay to actively pursue weight loss, because you're working towards something to get a life-saving surgery. And if that's the parameter that the doctor set up, then that's something that I will respect and go with. But if your average person says, my doctor thinks I need to lose X amount of weight, I would say, well, let's look at your habits. Let's try to change certain things about your lifestyle to move more towards a healthy lifestyle. But judging your success by the scale is not the way to go. Judging your success by mood and by strength and sleep quality and other physical attributes that I went over, like your hair, your nails, your skin, those are better ways to judge your success rather than the number on the scale, just because it's so much out of your control.
Great, thank you. Just going to double check if anybody has any questions, feel free to comment. And if not, then I'll ask you if you have any parting words, or what are the top 3 most important takeaways that you want people to get out of this video?
Make peace with your body. You're spending too much time thinking about it. You don't have to spend so much time thinking about it. There's a big leap from self-hatred to self-love. That's a huge leap. And thinking that you're going to just love your body all of a sudden after years of this battle, that can be a problem. But if you can start to think of your body in a more neutral way, like you think of your little toe, it's there, it has a function, it's important, but it doesn't have to take over your brain and take 17 years of your life away the way that the weight loss pursuit does.
Amazing. So we got some comments saying thank you, and I will echo them. Thank you so much, Yafi. This was really, really great, and again, inspiring and empowering. And I'm so glad to have been able to talk to you about this topic.
Thank you so much for having me. And if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to email me at yafi@babybloomnutrition.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.